This is a flooded car I bought a year ago for over $7,000, which originally had an out-the-door price of over $140,000 back in the day. In this episode, I'll take you through the entire repair process of this flooded car from start to finish. Friendly reminder, grab a seat and get comfortable so your legs don't fall asleep. Here is the condition of the car when it first arrived. As you can see, the passenger seat is completely caked in mud. By the way, I bought this car online. Once we received the car, we had it towed straight to my yard, and next we're going to start fixing it. Now, let's review the condition of this vehicle. This car ended up in a ditch, which is why there's mud everywhere inside. It is absolutely wrecked. Moreover, the front section of the roof has caved in, and there's damage to the bodywork as well, especially on the passenger side where the mud is just plastered all over. If this wasn't a diesel model, it honestly wouldn't even be worth repairing. Next up, let's hook up the power and test it out to see how it reacts. Let's see if we get any surprises. Turning the key? Absolutely no response. No reaction at all. Well, that takes the fun out of it, doesn't it? What happened is that after the crash, the positive battery safety terminal or pyrotechnic fuse blew, which is why it's not getting any power. Let's remove this seat and connect directly to the battery. You clamp it right here. Hey, see that? We have a reaction. See, I told you, it couldn't possibly be completely dead. Let me see if the windows work. Nope, the windows aren't working. Look, the air suspension is raising. See that? Look, it's already lifted up. It's at a normal ride height now. This is actually a really pleasant surprise. Now, let's put the car on the lift and check if any water got into the engine or transmission. Well, water has definitely gotten into the engine. That's a lot of water. Now let's check if there's any water inside the front differential. Fortunately, the front differential, the center differential, and the rear differential are all clear. No water ingress at all. Now, we're going to drop the transmission oil pan and change the fluid inside. Since the transmission fluid has already emulsified, to save on costs, we're going to use a distillation trick to boil off all the moisture inside, and then we'll reuse this fluid to flush out the transmission. After repeating this process 7 or 8 times, the leftover oil-water mixture inside the transmission has been completely flushed out. The inside of this transmission is now incredibly clean. Look at the color of the fluid now. It's finally back to its normal color. Next up, we'll just go ahead and fill it with fresh fluid. Now that the transmission is sorted out, let's take a look at the engine. Let's see if we can crank it over by hand. It won't budge. The reason it won't turn over is probably because there's water in the cylinders. Let's go ahead and pull the fuel injectors out so we can push the water out of the cylinders. Look at this filter. Are you kidding me? See that? It is completely full of water inside. Now we'll spray a little lubricant in there to lube up the cylinder sleeves and pistons. Look at that! The engine can now turn over smoothly and normally. So the engine has been completely sorted out. Next up, we'll start stripping out the interior. Let's clean up some of the mud in here. A lot of people have been saying that I put this mud in here myself. Take a close look for yourselves. Does this really look like something I faked? Now let's pull out this seat. Let's remove all the door panels. First, we need to take out the electronics in the back. Now we're going to start dismantling the dashboard. We'll remove the center armrest and this center console, pulling the dash out. Now let's rip out this carpet. All right, the dash frame is out. Now this car has been completely stripped bare. Next up, we're going to get started on the bodywork and pull all these dents back out. Now let's tackle the roof, which is the most severely deformed area. We're going to use this hydraulic ram to push it straight up and then hammer down the high spots. The overall shape of the roof has now been restored. Next, we just need to pull out these minor dents. All right, those small dents are all fixed up. Now, let's test fit the glass to see if it sits in the right position. Next, we'll test fit the sunroof to check if its alignment is correct. Once the sunroof is test fitted, the bodywork on the roof is officially complete. Next up is the process of sanding, applying body filler, and painting. After getting it sanded down smooth, we're going to spray on a coat of epoxy primer, which has excellent rust prevention properties. We'll also spray a coat of epoxy primer on the underside of the roof panel. Any damaged spots on the doors will get hit with epoxy primer too. Now we're going to apply some imported aluminum reinforced body filler. Once that's all sanded down perfectly, we'll spray on another layer of primer. And now, we'll lay down the final coats of paint. All right, the bodywork and paint job for the roof are completely finished. Let's give this roof a quick wash, and then we'll go ahead and reinstall the sunroof and all the glass. Now everything on the roof has been completely repaired, and the results are looking pretty good. Now we're installing the front windshield, and right after that, we'll put in the rear windshield. Next up, we're going to give the entire car a massive deep clean. We're going to pay special attention to the wiring harness and wash it thoroughly twice. Washing the wiring harness again now. We have to scrub it until there isn't a single speck of mud left. Talk to me. This is the result after the cleaning is completely finished. You could say there is absolutely no mud left. It is incredibly clean, including all these areas here. Take a look. Now we're going to tackle cleaning the most tedious part of all, every single interior component of this car. Now that everything has been completely washed and fully dried, we are going to start the reassembly. First, let's sort out this wiring harness. We'll tape up whatever needs to be wrapped and replace any retaining clips that need replacing. Basically, we want to restore it as closely to the original factory condition as possible. With the wiring harness all sorted, let's officially begin the reassembly, once again using my super invincible assembly magic. Now the carpet is in. Next, we'll grease up the entire sunroof and then finish reinstalling everything else on the roof. Now we need to completely reupholster the headliner. Because this headliner is a salvaged part, the original fabric is already aged and sagging, so we have no choice but to wrap it all over again. The headliner is newly wrapped, so let's get it installed into the car. After that, we'll put all the roof components back together and test all the functions to make sure everything works properly. Now we are swapping out about 99% of the computer modules in this car, and then we'll start installing all the interior trim panels. let's replace these two headlights. These are the replacement headlights we bought for this car. We'll also swap out the front bumper. This is a salvaged one we picked up. Now it's finally back to its former handsome look. Now let's go ahead and replace the rear bumper too. All right, we're putting the fuel injectors in and getting ready to start it up. First, let's turn the engine over by hand to make sure there are no binding issues. Now that everything is put together, guys, let's fire it up and test it out. Oh boy, oh boy. Wow, listen to that beautiful sound. It finally started. Now that the engine is running normally, we'll go ahead and do an engine oil change. Fast forward about 2 months later, when I took it in for its vehicle inspection, the inspector revved the engine too hard and broke it. Now the engine is shaking violently. After spending over a month diagnosing the issue, we finally found the culprit. A valve spring had snapped. We had no choice but to pull the engine out again to replace the valve springs. Now we're removing all the parts blocking the engine from coming out. Let's pull the engine and detach the transmission. Now we strip down all the components in the way of replacing the valve springs. And we'll just go ahead and replace every single valve spring. A total of 5 valve springs were broken. Look, they're all right here. The valve springs have been replaced, so let's put everything back together. The engine is fully reassembled. Now let's drop it back into the car. We'll reinstall everything we took off earlier. Let's top off the coolant, engine oil, and brake fluid. Then we need to bleed all the air out of the brake system. All right, fire it up. Now the engine is running normally, incredibly smooth. Let's take this car to get painted. Repairing this car up to this point has been an unbelievable amount of hard work and trouble. I wasn't intentionally dragging out the timeline. This car really was just that much of a headache. I almost feel like this car was a severe test sent from above, like it was a destined hurdle in my career. It was just so much trouble. Fortunately, it's completely fixed now. All right, my journey with cars will continue. Thank you all for your support and for watching. See you next season.
Thank you.